Hi everyone, welcome to Smithills Hall. Andy's just recorded his part 1 and this is part 2 for those people that are interested in the history. This is the oldest part of the building. This courtyard dates back to the 1200s and this is the original, one of the original doors. There was a front door and a back door, exactly identical. This is the original door to the original Smithills Hall, which it originates from the 1200s, and bits have been added on over the centuries. Different people, different families have owned it. This part that we're coming up to now is the oldest part of the hall. It's quite a large hall now. It's got a Tudor extension at the top, up there, the Tudor roof. But originally the hall was only to this level here. That would have been the original hall. And there has been some connection with pirates to this hall. I believe, I don't exactly know which pirate it was, one of the famous pirates, possibly Bluebeard, apparently came into Liverpool with his ship, and because the government wanted him, he had to go into hiding, and he knew some of the family members or some people connected to this hall, and they managed to take him in. They agreed to take him in, and I think there's still some musket ball holes actually in the windowsill. Just let me go back and just have a look if we can see that. You can see them during the day, but I'm just wondering if at night time. Yeah, there's some little tiny. They might be a bit too small, but that window there, the windowsill at the bottom, there's about 1, 2, 3, 4 musket ball holes, and it's believed that it was somebody firing at that window, possibly connected to when one of the pirates was staying here. That he, like I say, he was hiding away here for some months, trying to stay away from the government because piracy was a hanging offence. So there was some connection with him here, and they don't actually know whether he brought any treasure here with him or anything got buried here or remained behind or anything like that. I'm pretty sure it was Bluebeard, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that was Edward Teach, or Blackbeard was Edward Teach. Very educated man. And if there is a pirate connected to this hall, you are welcome to join me on this tour round. Come and tell me why you were at this hall. So I'm on my own now, and this is the, I call it the 15th century section of the hall. It's pretty dark because there's no lighting around here at all. There is a man attached to this part of the hall called George Marsh, and what happened to this poor person, he was one of those people in the 1500s that wanted, during the time of Henry VIII again, he wanted to remain his Church of England Protestant faith, and because he wouldn't convert back to Catholicism, he was put to death, and he suffered a horrendous death. He was actually put on trial at this very hall, because they used to open up this hall in those days for court cases, and he was put on trial because he wouldn't convert, and they found him guilty. And apparently in this very this is the chapel bit here, we're going round. When we get round to the other side, I'll show you the room where he had the trial held, and where he was convicted, and where he is still said to be seen, because he stamped his foot in anger and was ranting and raving, and he was defiant that he would not convert. This all took place in the upper floor of this building, and when you go up there now, they've still got like a makeshift room, altar, like a bit of a courtroom. We did an overnight paranormal here one time, and I was in that room very late at night on my own, and the door slammed and I was in there and I couldn't get out, and everybody was like wrapping it up for the evening, and I was like panicking a bit because I'm thinking, oh my god, everybody's like miles away because this place is so huge. And the door slammed and I was in there. Fortunately my sister was with us that night. She came to get me out. she came looking round, and I said, you know, I'm in the George Marsh room, and you know, I won't go back in there now after that experience. It sort of freaked me out a little bit, but he's been seen around, you know, the place. He, people who work here, the volunteers who look after this lovely hall, I've seen him. You know, he comes across as like a hooded figure. He's about 50 years of age, white curly hair, white curly beard. Bit like Andy, really. We put him in a hooded robe. He could be George Marsh. You know what? Perhaps we should do that and see if we can entice him to come forward. This bit is the Victorian bit. So the Ainsworth family took this place on board in the 1800s, and the Ainsworth family were famous for making cloth, making bleaching, dyeing cloth different colours back in the Victorian days when some interesting colours and fashions used to come around. They used to own the Belmont Bleach Works, and they also owned the whole of Winter Hill at that time. So they owned a lot of land, and they owned this house from 1800. The last Ainsworth, I think it was about 1936, he lost this house at the gambling tables in London. He was in London and he'd just run out of money, so he decided he'd put the hall. I think that's Andy coming round. I thought I could hear feet then. Is it you, Andy? Oh, I was just talking about the last Ainsworth that lived here who gambled it all away. Why are you running around here? Are you freaking out? I was just saying to everyone how if we put you in a hooded robe, you could be George Marsh recreated. Have you seen something around there? Is that why you've come round here? So this is all the Victorian section. Yeah, it's a bit dark. Yeah, you can't see though, but it's creepy. But this bit up top was the servants' quarters up there, and that room is where they've had a lot of doors slamming and where they tried to do the electrics, and the electricians ran off because the tools kept getting thrown and stuff like that. And I actually met one of those electricians, told me the story, and he said that he wasn't a believer in the paranormal until that happened.
That in the window.
It's a dummy.
It's a dummy.
Yeah, it's like the one that's in the Lady Ainsworth room.
It's a dummy.
You turn a corner and there's this black thing standing there. I remember the worst thing that happened to me, the front door, which we're coming up to the front door soon. The front door was open and I was walking around with the dog, and there was a hooded figure stood in the front door, and it was like, oh my god, and I had to go back and look, and somebody had put it there as a thing for Halloween to advertise the ghost tours. So I think the thing is, like, when you do this stuff all the time, you see something like that and it's just a Halloween costume and you automatically have to go back and look because you think, oh my god, is it something?
You do freak out, yeah. You do.
Because you're more like aware of what you could see.
But you're lying if you say you didn't get...
We'll go to the front because then we'll go back to the courtyard. And then if you want to try, do anything you wanted to try doing, and EVP, are you doing EVP or anything like that?
I'm going to do some EVP, but I was going to do them back in that bit there.
Okay, right.
Where the EMF
So we'll walk back round.
The EMF meter was going up.
Have you got your equipment with? Have you got everything with you?
Everything with us.
All right.
Yeah, I brought everything round.
Let me sort this torch out a bit better. Yeah, okay then. Well, whatever you want to do.
I'm going to do...
Do you know there's a Celtic cross up there? Do you want to walk up to the cross? Well, it needs some light because it's a bit dark up here because we're walking on the lawn. There is a Celtic cross. This Celtic cross actually came from the town centre, and they moved it up here. What can you smell? It's pitch black, can't see a thing here. We won't be in the dark for long, guys. I'm going to give you something to see in a minute. We're walking across the lawn now up to the Celtic cross, but from here you get a really good view of the hall, so I'm going to film around and show you that from here. You can see the whole hall and how big it is. This Celtic cross here coming up, this was in Bolton Town Centre. It's where they used to execute people back in the day. That's what it was used. It was used to place, the execution point in Bolton Town Centre back in the day. The Earl of Derby, who haunts the Man and Scythe in Bolton. Yeah, so, and they've actually not got any of the lights on at the hall. They're probably saving money, aren't they? They used to have that all lit up at night time. They don't seem lighted up now.
Sit on here.
Yeah, because you know you might get something connected to Churchgate. Churchgate was the place where it was the marketplace. It was the
It's just interesting. Somebody put some flowers in.
maybe somebody sprinkled some ashes here or something.
Yeah.
So this was shipped from Bolton Town Centre to it was only about 5 miles to here.
Now I'm going to do an EVP here.
Yeah, because you might get something connected to this cross. You might get something that's not connected to this hall. So that'll be interesting, won't it, if you get something else?
Right. So I'm going to do it now. Probably only going to do a couple of minutes and then stop it.
Yeah.
Maybe go down there and do another one, but we'll see what we get here.
Right.
It's quite quiet here. Here we go. Is there anybody who'd like to talk to us? Anybody connected to this hall? Is there any of the Ainsworths here?
That was a moth that went by then, not an orb.
Is it you just flush those lights on the EMF meter?
Were you connected to the cross at Churchgate? Flash the lights if you were.
Speaking to that red light, if you want to talk to us, anything you want to say.
If you hear anything, it's going to be animals. Because you get a lot of deer and that around here because of the woods. The Haunted Woods is just behind this hall. When we did Haunted Woods Part 1 and 2, this is the house that's attached to those woods. Do you remember when we walked through and said we're going to do the hall separate? Well, this is that hall, Smithills Hall. And if you haven't seen it, there's Haunted Woods Part 1 and 2 on YouTube, which belongs to this hall.
Flash the lights on the EMF meter. Thank you.
Has it flashed at all yet? Has it flashed when you said Smithills, or did it flash when you said, are you related to the cross at Churchgate?
So you know. Really stopping the recorder.
Another phenomena at this hall is at 3 o'clock in the morning, people have heard horses' hooves coming up to the front door. But there are pictures of Lord Colonel Ainsworth's funeral in the hall, black and white ones from the 1920s. They had a really big funeral cortege and it was all horses and carriages. Are there any spirit people here with us? Please come through. Whether you're attached to this cross or whether you're attached to this hall, please come forward and make yourself known. Do anything you wish to. Speak to us, touch one of us, mess with the equipment, knock the torch off. We've both got torches on. That white thing flicking at the top right hand corner is coming from the street at the back. There's some lights. So that's not an orb or anything. I always do this because
Would you like to talk to us? Anybody connected to this hall? Is there any of the Ainsworths here?
oh, what's that? I could hear something talking from here.
So you just flash those lights on the EMF meter.
Or was it me talking? Was it me?
Speak into that red light if you want to talk to us. Anything you want to say. It's funny how you said you flashed the lights.
Oh yeah. No, that weren't flashing. That wasn't flashing before, was it?
That was good,
Yeah, I started flashing.
They've gone off only what, past?
Why is that flashing on and off like that? See, this is what makes you feel like it really is a haunted house when you see this kind of thing happening. It does have a lot of phenomenon, this place.
He's still here.
I don't think there's anybody there.
Flashing the lights on the meter.
Well, if they're flashing the lights on the hall, that's even better still, isn't it? But we need to go over and check that out and make sure, like, it's not... I mean, if a cat's walked past or something, it might have set it off. Or a fox or something, it might have set it off.
So you know.
That wasn't flashing before that.
No, it wasn't.
So I don't know why it's flashing now. Maybe it's trying to get our attention.
Flash the lights.
Maybe... Yeah, I know, that's true. Maybe it's trying to get our attention and draw us across. Can you see the light flashing there? I'm going to walk over because I want to see which window it is that's flashing and why it's flashing. In fact, let's go down the steps because you get a bit more of a layout of this place if we go down the steps. And we're going to go up there and find out why that... It wasn't flashing before, so why is it flashing now? This is what we need to know. See, they've got alarms all over this place, so I don't know if maybe a fox or a cat or a squirrel or something's triggered it off. Or maybe even we've triggered it off when we've gone by. But it wasn't actually flashing because, you know, when I went up there at the top and I said, look, there's the hall, I can give you a full picture, but I couldn't because there's no lighting on. Well, that's flashing on and off there like crazy. And there's nobody in, nobody actually stays at this hall anymore at night time. Security now, they don't really bother, they only unlock it in the morning and then unless they get any disturbances, you know, reports, then they won't come up here at all. So I don't know why that's flashing, to be fair. It wasn't flashing before, definitely not. There is an alarm going off, I can hear that, but that's further down the courtyard bit where we were before. This is all the Victorian section. This is what the Ainsworths built. You know what? That's only started since we started talking about the Ainsworth family.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is, because we was talking about Colonel Ainsworth. Do you know what? I think he's an active one here, because do you remember when we did the seance?
Yeah.
That time. Do you know what I think we should do? Sit on one of these tables and let's just do a few little paranormal things around here. It's stopped. Oh no, it's still flashing. Now that only started really since we started talking about Colonel Ainsworth.
That wasn't doing it.
No, it wasn't doing it.
It wasn't doing it when we walked past.
So,
I might do a bit of...
Colonel Ainsworth was the man who owned this hall back in the 1920s. Back in the times when Tutankhamun's tomb was discovered. And they've actually got an Egyptian Book of the Dead in this place. Because back in those days, when Tutankhamun's tomb was discovered back in the Roaring 20s, what I call the Downton Abbey era, everybody suddenly went mad for Egypt, and everybody who had any money went off to Egypt, you know, to have a look themselves. And that's why Agatha Christie wrote Death on the Nile. It was just the most popular place ever. And if you notice, back in those days, the ladies, they started to wear those headdresses like Egyptian, you know, like what they would wear on their brow, on their headpieces. A lot of people from Britain then who have money, like people like this who own this hall, used to go then to holidays by train, by Orient Express all the way down to Egypt. And they would collect anything really and bring it back and put it on display. And I mentioned in the Whalley Abbey series Horton Towers. Well, Horton Towers also brought back an Egyptian mummy. And they still have that Egyptian mummy there. It's a real mummy in a case, but apparently it's down in the cellar somewhere. But yeah, they collected all kinds of Egyptian artefacts. And I think that Colonel Ainsworth was one of the people that actually went out to Egypt. It was his son that gambled this hall away and lost it. But there's other history further back. Who's coming through now, please? Can you give us a name? If you're one of the Ainsworths, please let us know which one. Come and join us at this table.
Talk through this device. Let us know who you are. And did you turn that light on?
Why did you put the house lights on? That's picking up. Just moving that out the way you can see it.
Cross.
Cross? Does it say cross? Seriously? After we've just walked up there? It does, it says cross. Are you connected to the cross from Bolton Marketplace? The execution place? That's strange because we were just asking about that cross up there, weren't we?
Yeah.
What's your connection to the Celtic cross? What does it mean to you? The EMS going there. Who are you, please? Can you give us your name? It's strange how it said cross.
That was funny.
Well, it's strange how it said cross in it after we've just been up there looking at it and everything.
Are you connected to the cross?
Would you be the Earl of Derby?
Investigation.
Oh yeah, we are doing a ghost investigation. Who's coming through, please?
Who is this?
Give us your name, whoever it is.
Hello.
It's a paranormal investigation. We're here to talk to you. Anybody who's passed over. Anybody who wants to come back and talk to us. Perhaps you were interested in the paranormal and the occult.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they were. The Victorians were big on it, weren't they? We did some Victorian stuff the other week, didn't we, in the woods?
Come on.
Come forward. EMF's going now, Luke.
EMF's going crazy now. Oh, I've just got shivers. I've just got shivers.
Please come closer and please tell us your name if you can.
Oh, I'm just going so cold here now. It was icy cold
That's
here.
it. So something's here then. Somebody's here.
Icy cold.
Who's here?
It's quite a warm night.
It's a really warm night. It's been one of the warmest days, hasn't it? And the EMF's flickering. Who's here, please?
I am icy cold. I've got shivers.
Have you?
I've got shivers. If I had heard it, I'd be standing up.
Well, you know when they say that somebody's walked over your grave, it normally means that there's a spirit stood close, really close to you, like in your personal space, and that's when you can pick it up.
I was so cold. I mean,
who's affecting Andy, please? Can you give us your name?
Nobody can feel that. It's like somebody's breathing ice.
Really? So somebody stood right... Is it Colonel Ainsworth?
I don't know who it is, but it's so cold.
Is it a spirit that's attached to me or Andy, a family spirit?
I'm shivering.
Yeah.
I'm shivering.
So somebody stood right by you then. See, I don't feel cold at all.
It's here.
So it's standing right... Is it Peter Ainsworth? The reason I said Peter Ainsworth is because...
somebody sat in the chair and he's blowing on my face.
And perhaps somebody is. We just need to find out who. Peter Ainsworth was here in 1840. And he tragically lost a daughter in a well. She fell down a well and died.
If somebody sat here, light those lights up. Thank you.
Is it one of the Ainsworths?
If it's one of the Ainsworths, light those lights up.
If it's one of the Ainsworths, please try and tell us your name and then we know which one, who it is, please. Is it Mrs. Ainsworth?
Is it Lady Ainsworth?
Because Colonel and Lady Ainsworth absolutely hated each other then. Oh look, it's going like crazy now we're talking about them. She had separate bedroom. And he had a separate room and the doors were made so they didn't meet in the house. And the photographs of them, when you see them, they're frosty faced. You can tell they just do not want to be together. I think it was one of those marriages that like money marries money and keeps the house going. It wasn't a marriage of love.
Whoever's here,
Yeah, it's going crazy now. Do you reckon it's the Ainsworths? They're probably still battling it out and fighting, aren't they, Andy? They never got on. Do you remember that time when, with Ian Lawman, we did, the women went in Colonel Ainsworth's room and the men went in Lady Ainsworth's room to try and get the activity going?
Yeah, Lady Ainsworth. Is it you? Can you flash those lights if it's you?
Well, the house light's still flashing anyway. No, that wasn't flashing when we did the walkabout before. Because I walked round here and then you caught me up. And when we were stood up there and I wanted to do the full length view of Smithills, because normally it's lit up.
It's going mad, mate.
So something's definitely here. Somebody's definitely here. No, it's stopped now. I'm filming it. Why? Why did you stop when I started filming? Don't you want people to know that you're here?
He.
Hey. He who? Can you give us a name?
Will you flash those lights up?
Put the other EMF meter on a table over there and let's see if we can get on both, because if we can get it on both. Yeah, see if we can find it. Just put it on that coffee table over there. Because if we can get both of them going then... There is one on the other bench. We'll pick it up when we go back round.
In there?
Yeah.
I won't get it.
Alright, you go then, and I'll stay on my own and just see if I can get anything on my own. Sometimes when you're left on your own, like Andy said before, that's when they will come forward. Yeah, sometimes when you're on your own, like that for example, is now trying to speak. Let's just see what it says. Drag. Drag what? Are you trying to tell us about something that happened here? See, this is the thing. Sometimes when you're left on your own, that's when they'll come forward, because I think when you're talking, there's less chance of you actually picking up something around you, but if you're on your own, then you're more likely to see or hear something. So I do sometimes think that when you're on your own doing long vigils and stuff like that, you've got a good chance of catching stuff then. There's the other bench as well. I put one on one bench and one on the other.
Round that corner?
Both benches. There's one on one bench and one on the other.
In there?
In the courtyard.
Round the corner?
There's only two benches.
No, I mean, yeah, round there.
Yeah, there's one on one bench and one on the other. This says drag. It's picking up parcel. What it does this, it flickers, and when it goes up and goes to red, that's when you've got something coming through. So is there anybody with us, please? Is anybody with me now that I'm on my own? Grandchild? Whose grandchild? Are you, did you belong to the Ainsworth family? Somebody's grandchild. No, this is interesting. Now, Andy's grandma came through last week, right, at Rivington Castle. We got Annie, aged 60, and Andy's grandma was called Annie, and she was 60 when she died of a heart attack. Now, Andy would be her grandchild. No, I wonder. No, I didn't meet her, because she died long before, Andy was still young. Annie, are you here, Andy's grandma? I know I've never met you. But is it you that came through last week when we were at Rivington Castle? And is Andy your grandchild? If it's you, I'd love to meet you so much. Please come through and talk to me. Is it you? Or was you somebody else's? Do you know what I'm thinking now? I've just had a thought. when Peter Ainsworth, I was telling you before, about Peter Ainsworth, his 4-year-old daughter fell down a well locally and died tragically. She would have been somebody's grandchild. So what if they're looking for her, or the grandchild is looking for the parent, or maybe possibly. Unless we get a name, we can't say for sure definitely who that is, but it's started to go again. Let's have another look what's coming through. Month. We've had grandchild in months. I'm wondering if this is the kid that fell down the well. City. Factories. Well, they had factories. It's the Ainsworths. They had factories. Because what they used to do was, they used to bleach the cloth down at Belmont, ready for the dresses and things that they were making, and then they used to take it all to Manchester and then get the stuff made up there. So this is all making sense. This telling us a story. I know about the bleach factory at Belmont, and we also know that you were involved in the Lancashire cotton trade. You used to make clothes for the Victorian people and use all those lovely colourful dyes that started to become so popular in the 1850s when people started to travel by train. People's fashion just suddenly became really flamboyant. And this family, the Ainsworths, they were responsible for a lot of, making the fabrics, for the fashions. If anybody knows anything about Victorian clothes, the ladies used to wear those big hooped skirts. And at one time they decided to create the bustle dress, which they used to scoop up the skirt and tie it at the back, the bustle dress. They made that dress for train travel so that the ladies could move up and down the carriage freely, because they couldn't get up and down the carriage with the hoop skirts on. So this family would have had connections to that back in the day. The creation of these dresses and things, and the colours of the fabrics that they would have used, because also, they used to travel to India a lot in those days, and they would have come back with some beautiful fabrics from India, some silks, to make the clothing with. This bit used to be an old people's home. I remember this when I was a kid. This bit and that bit up there used to be elderly people's home. But I remember when my mum used to work with elderly people, somebody told her one time that when they lived here the doors were banging and they thought it was haunted, so they had to move them all out because they just couldn't settle here. So all of this area, this bit, it was originally the Ainsworths, like bedrooms and things, libraries, lounges. But eventually, like I said, the house in 1936 was gambled away, and then the Bolton Council stepped in and bought it. It was, I think, mental health patients stayed for some time, and then they got moved out, and then they transferred it for elderly patients. And my mum knew some of those patients because although my mum has worked all her life as an occupational health nurse, she also did a second job at one time with elderly people, so she met some of the elderly people that actually lived in here. And that room at the top, I might go around the other side actually and show you from there, because very, very active room. When Most Haunted came here, that was the room. If anybody used to watch Most Haunted and anybody remembers, Yvette's cousin Stuart did a long vigil up there, and the door kept creaking open and shutting. That's where he was, on that corridor there. Now that very same corridor, they've tried to renovate it several times, and there's one at the top, an attic corridor as well. They've tried several times to renovate it, and every time they try and renovate it, they get like doors slamming, feet walking about, and they get like tools being moved, and they get all this activity, and so many tradesmen have just like run off because of that they can't get it finished. So it's still up there. It's derelict when you're inside. Now, when you do the paranormal overnight in here, because we've been overnight at this place, you can go up to those derelict rooms, And there's also a derelict billiard room at the back somewhere, which you can also go in when you do the paranormal overnight stop. So, but they only open up every so often overnight. So we're waiting because, to be quite truthful, our calendar is full now, right the way up to New Year's Day, really. Every weekend we've got different paranormal events on, and we're probably going to go back to the Pontefract Black Monk House at some point. Definitely need to do that. So I don't think we're going to get back to do this place overnight inside until the new year. But we will, yeah, you know, it is on the list. There's lots of things on the list that we want to do. And, you know, obviously Fridays, Saturdays are the only times we can get to do this paranormal stuff, because Andy and I do have full-time jobs, Monday to Friday. And as much as we'd love to do this 7 days a week, we can only do it 2 days a week, but we're fully booked now right the way through to New Year's Day. Different venues, different, you know, places. We're going to be going over to Scarborough and Whitby to do some paranormal over there. And as Andy said, we're going down to Abergavenny, Skirridin, and then we're also going to an abandoned hospital in Wales. Besides, you know, local stuff, abandoned things that are going on around here as well. So, do you get any more messages coming through, Andy?
Limited and passage. But
Really?
That lights up, and then that one lights
Yeah,
up. So
it's like they're trying to tell us a story, but you know, when you went round there, right, it came up grandchild. So I asked if it was your grandma, because you would be the grandchild. But it just came up factories. I think my battery's getting low on this now, is it?
Yeah. Well, we can do whatever you're going to do, and I'll do it on my
Yeah,
camera.
see, it's like, I never know with this, because it's showing like half a battery, but there's a red light flashing up.
Yeah.
So I'll just say goodnight, just in case I get cut off. Because we usually just disappear because it starts flashing red and we don't get a chance to say goodnight. It's not saying goodnight. Don't tell me it's saying that on there.
No, that flashed when you said it. I'm just winding you up. It just said classic. Loading.
You know when that red light's flashing on there?
On there?
No, on this.
On there?
Does that mean the battery's gone yet?
Mm,